So in this video, I want to compare the Daigon Staff versus the Foci Staff. This is primarily for Invocator, Staff and Wand, but should for the most part also apply to Staff and Bow. I also want to go over some different comparisons on bonuses that you might not be aware you should be using. Particularly for Wand, it can be confusing. Also, whether you should go with full Transcendant versus 2-piece Void and 2-piece Spectral, and ultimately a bunch of other comparisons and my overall work in progress builds for Staff Wand. There should be timestamps on the play bar below, and the first thing we're going to look at is the actual difference, particularly in PvE, between the Renaissance Foci Staff and the Daigon Staff. You can see the price difference on them is absolutely massive. And keep in mind, you can also just buy the lithograph of the Renaissance Foci and craft that thing. And the average price of this is actually usually around 1,500. So you can wait for that to drop down. I already bought it at 1,500 and then I got a great success when actually crafting it. So I fell to the temptation and actually went and sold it again, getting me a nice profit. But I did take some time to do some testing with it. So I put a lot of work in here with like Excel sheets, looking at the math, the breakdown of all your different abilities, how that's affected by then cooldowns, and overall how much does it actually contribute to your overall damage. And thus we can actually see how much does Daigon actually increase our overall damage with its bonus of staff fire skills increased by 5% and burning damage increased by 15%. A quick disclaimer, I'm not fully sure if the damage bonus from the Daigon Staff is multiplicative or is it additive. It's very likely additive with other damage bonuses, which means for certain skills it's not as effective. For example, on your focused fire bombs, if you already have over 200% damage bonus because of all those damage bonuses that this gives you when charging it up and even against just monsters, the amount you would gain with the Daigon bonus is not much, like 1.47% added to that. And then keep in mind, it's not like all of your abilities are actually fire skills. A bunch of them are lightning, and then all your wand skills, they're not fire. And you also got to look at the burning damage. And this pretty much only contributes to, yes, your burning, which you already have over 165% damage bonus on, when you consider all these other masteries and passives. Even a gear set can be worth running. So the TLDR of this is the Daigon Staff overall is about a 0.93% damage gain. This is versus without using it and then using it with those bonuses. As again, the staff does not contribute to all of your damage. So yes, with regards to that, it is a damage improvement. But if we look at the Abyssal Renaissance Foci Staff, we can see this has species damage boost. And what this results in is a breakdown where the Foci Staff is actually better in terms of just raw stats, ignoring the bonus. Therefore, if we combine this with this, you result in the Daigon Staff actually only being the difference of 0.87 to 0.93 of a 0.06% damage gain. So absolutely don't buy this staff for PvE, because the Foci Staff has the species damage, which is just very impactful. And on top of that, the Foci Staff gives you an extra boost to cooldown speed, where the Daigon Staff does not. But be aware of these notes here. Like if you're just trying to one-shot people or bosses with Hellfire, then yes, the Daigon Staff, just for that like 3.5% extra damage gain, is worth it. That's the same for PvP. I sure as hell wouldn't pay that much for it, but you can at least see that it is a little bit more effective than alternative staffs. Just be aware though, we have yet to get the Greyeye staff, which can have just as much base damage as the Daigon Staff with the added attack speed and cooldown, along with extra what could be lightning damage if that's a bit of a translation error. This one can probably be a very close contender. So ultimately in PvE, yes, your Daigon Staff can be a fraction of a percent better, but the Foci Staff is just as good with a fraction of the cost. But now let's jump to my build and recommendations based on what discoveries I found by looking and analyzing the different abilities and how much adding certain bonuses actually contributes. We can see adding the Chosen set, which is going to be a boost of 20% damage over time, can actually be pretty good. It's over a 5.59% damage increase. More importantly, I've done this comparison with the Eye of Emptiness. If you're not aware what this is, it's the Wand Mastery, which increases the nighttime effect of your devotion and emptiness. Basically, it is best to go with that plus the Light of Devotion. Then you end up with the both day and nighttime effect at full, along with an extra boost of 20%. So you're ultimately gaining nearly 43% extra damage over time, no matter if it's day or night, and you need to compare that using like Selfless Soul or Full of Corruption with the 7.2% magic damage or the 7% base damage. And what you actually find is it's over a 17% damage boost just by having both effects, because of your Cursed Explosion and your burning damage over time, along with all these dots contributing from that. I looked at the Witching Hour. It's ultimately not that important. It's only like 2% damage gain. You could run Ray of Disaster instead. That's also over 2% damage gain. Even an Inferno Wave could be better at like 4.5% damage gain. It's just not going to be as burst damage orientated. And then, yes, I did compare Tevent, but I want to delay publishing that info until I look more into Tevent for the Wand and Dagger, see how effective that is, and then potentially I might even save up enough Lucent to be able to get it when we actually get Tevent the next time around. On Europe, it's not that bad of a cost in terms of an Archboss weapon, and it could potentially be better than the Codex. I just need to do more math on that and testing. You can see on a stat standpoint, Tevent only seems like 0.5% better, but that's excluding its bonus. And I did look at the upcoming wand, which you can get from like Rancorwood. That's like even worse than the Codex when you compare it. When you're creating your build, should you go with the Transcendent set, or should you go with the Void 2-piece and Spectral 2-piece? Spectral can give you 25% crit damage as long as there isn't an enemy within 5 meters of you, and Void gives you 20 more maximum damage. Transcendent can give you up to 40% critical damage, but in reality, particularly with like Wand and Staff, the maximum range you're going to be is going to be limited by your Wand, and that's like here 22 meters. But if we're using the Codex, that's even worse, as we're only at 18 meters. So we need to look more realistically. You're going to stand a maximum of 18 meters away. Let's make that 15, because you don't want to be too far from the group or you miss out on buffs. And you can see Transcendent is ever so slightly better than Void and Spectral. Void and Spectral, you have to stand like 6 meters away, so it has that advantage. You can stand closer to the group and the boss. And Transcendent, you need to stand like 15 meters away. But the advantage of Transcendent is you can stand further away, particularly if you get more range bonuses. Like with even Tevent, it has better range. You can stand like 22 meters away, and you're gaining a significant extra damage boost because you will gain a ton more crit damage. You can see nearly 6% extra damage gain because you can stand that 25 meters away and gain another 15% critical damage. So if you do look at my build, I'll have a link in the video description. It is completely a work in progress. You can read the description here, and it has like my current build here. Again, I need to get my Foci Staff again. I'll wait for the price to go down again once the hype's over. I'm in no rush to get my build maxed out. I'm pretty happy with Wand and Dagger right now, particularly farming field bosses, but this is what I'd have. And I recommend starting in like step 1. This is all tier 1 gear. You go with a 2-piece Shadow Harvester, and you'd go with like 2-piece Ascendant and get like the Swirling Essence rope. And these accessories not going to matter too much, and in general it's not going to matter so much, as you're going to want to progress to tier 2 gear pretty quickly, getting that Transcendent set. It's usually not that expensive, at least compared compared to alternatives. And I'm just going with the Shadow Harvester boots because you'd have them already from step 1, and you would work on accessories as well, getting like the Ring of Celestial Light and the Band of Ancestors' Blood. This one, depending on your location, could be expensive for you, and then you'd have like the Ring of Eternal Flames instead. That's nearly as good, it just doesn't have like the mana traits and it doesn't have like the attack speed. But you'd progress on to like step 3, and this is kind of where you would stop as like a free to play player. You will have to save up a bit to get the Deep Draconic Gorget or the Violent Undertow Bracelet, because these are like field boss ones, but I would recommend saving for those. They're just quite a bit better than like the Death Canal Gorgot that you could get as an alternative tier 2 one, or the Primal Golden Cuffs. You'd just be better off staying with the Wrapped Coin Necklace and the Bracelet of the Primal King, honestly, rather than switching to those. And so just be more patient and save for these. And like the best boots, I would go with the Transcendent sets, probably the Violent Demonic Beast, because these give like attack speed and then decent attributes as well. But ultimately, like the base dream setup is this. You would indeed have Daigon, and you'd have, of course, Tevent. You would have the Transcendent set, depending if you want to play at that range, or you would have the Void piece set. I would recommend the gloves and the pants. And then the Spectral, I would go with the headpiece and the boots, with then like the Blossom chest piece, just because you can get heavy attack, mana, and buff duration from it. But you can see we change a few accessories, getting like the Echoes Band, getting the Fractured Worlds bracelet, and the Cloak of the Frozen Expanse. So it's totally a min-max build. This is what I calculated to contribute to the most damage. You can see here how I looked at each of the steps, compared the stats. Over 24% gain there if you're going to step 2, nearly a 7% gain going from step 2 to 3, and then going to step 4, over a 5% gain. So it does like taper out of how much you're actually gaining, and it can just not be worth spending so much. But it's something you work towards, and keep in mind these are very much theory crafted based on the math, looking at the stats you gain and the amount of damage that would actually contribute to you. You can again see at the top, that's my current build, this is where I'm at, and honestly, Staff Wand is super effective. You could argue it's the best PvE damage combo right now in the game. If you want to hear my thoughts versus Wand Dagger, I would just say Staff Wand is just way easier to play. You have the massive advantage of being able to stand at range and damage your enemies. You don't have to worry about those certain mechanics when you're right next to the boss, particularly in these trials with the 3-star dungeons. It can be super annoying. Like Rancor Wood, you could end up in the fire if you use, say, your Frenzied Sword Dance. In the trials of the Halls of Tragedy, you can kill people if you get the red circle. Chapel of Madness, you can end up in the fire lines. And I think you're okay in Doomroot and Twisted Laboratory, but there's just so much against being melee in high level trials. Mechanics are always requiring you to be like positioned away from the boss, so you can't actually be dealing damage, whereas if you're ranged, you can auto attack. You can auto attack a little bit with Wand on Wand and Dagger, but it's not nearly as effective. And then you have the whole mana sustain issue. Wand and Dagger does suffer a bit depending on what group you're in, versus the Staff being able to rely on your inner peace. If you're not going for min-max damage, you totally use this instead of Witching Hour. You'd max level it, and basically, you can gain a ton of your mana back just by using this, along with a load of mana cost efficiency for a little bit of time. And so, out of the 2 weapon combos, if you're starting out, if you don't want that struggle of playing a melee damage dealer, which is totally real in PvE content, at least in high level trials, then just go with Staff Wand. And again, my recommended build is linked below. With these skills, you don't generally have to have too much of a strict rotation here. In general, of course, you will use your buffs, you will use your Hellfire Rain, you will make sure you have your curses cast before you use your Curse Explosion, and if you are using like Witching Hour instead of Inner Peace, then you'll use Witching Hour just after Curse Explosion. And then it's pretty much, again, just whatever's off cooldown, prioritizing curses, your Decaying Touch and Touch of Despair just before Curse Explosion, and the rest, just whenever it's off cooldown. you'd have these specializations. And for the masteries, you want to be going with this for the wand again, ideally having Light of Devotion and Eye of Emptiness, just to always have that damage over time. If you want to min-max and you know the contest's in nighttime, you can just go with Eye of Emptiness and not this one, because you would gain the effect because it's night, and then have one of the other ones. And in general, I'd go with Battle Spirit because that's 7% more maximum damage, which is going to contribute to all your damage. And I'm not fully sure what's considered magic. I mean, if all your damage is considered magic, then 7.2% more magic damage would be better than 7% more base damage. You have this corrupting hit mastery, but you don't generally take as much advantage of it here on Staff Wand because you're not basic attacking that much. But you can a bit, like when the boss has damage resistance, there's no point using skills, and so you can potentially have dual cast from the wand. That's honestly what I would go with. I don't know why my mastery here keeps resetting. It might do that again in the future, but yeah, have the dual cast. There's no need to have Fire Wave Amplifier unless you're making some AoE build. Mana Shockwave's pointless as well. You just have the points next to it and you get it anyway. This one's also pointless too. We don't use the passive. You want to get the extra burning duration here and the skill damage boost here. Unless you're struggling on mana, then maybe don't reduce your mana cost efficiency even further. And the mastery one, you will want this one just for more base damage, and you can go with this one just for some more mana. The staff ones are honestly not that important. The main ones to go with is max damage here, burning damage here, species damage here, damage over time here, and then the burning duration of this one. And on wand again, you want to have the Eye of Emptiness, Light of Devotion, Corrupting Hit, Vampiric Onslaught, Warrior's Gambit, Malicious Intent, and Abyssal Burst. And yeah, also get that species damage boost. And ultimately, Wand Staff is super powerful right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they go and nerf Wand a bit, because it's supporting super well both Wand and Dagger, Wand and Staff, and I'm sure there'll be other combos that will also pop up. But the Masteries just gave it an absolute ton of damage with the Tier 2 update. Ultimately, I hope this helps and was somewhat insightful. Again, it is pretty surprising to find these different effects, these gains, when you actually look at the damage breakdown of all your abilities and your rotations, that yeah, clearly better to have the extra damage over time with Devotion and Emptiness. Even running the Chosen set is very viable versus the Transcendent set. You would just then have to run Chosen and a crit damage set, which would ideally be your Spectral set. But thanks all for watching. Feel free to leave your thoughts below. We'll see you all around. Goodbye for now.